for now. All right. So Cindy surprisingly did not want to introduce you, so I will
Cindy.
take that upon myself.
Wait a second. I just said, are you introducing her? Because I wanted to be prepared.
Yeah.
That's the conversation.
I've been prepared for this for many years. Don't you worry.
Yeah, Steve and I have been stalking each other all this time.
So I sent everybody around the video from Simon Fraser, the 50th. I think it was when you were inducted into Simon Fraser's Hall of Fame. It was from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It was about 2 minutes long, and the thing that struck me was your answer to the question of when you figured out that you wanted to go to the Olympics, and you said at age 11. So what I want to know is what was going on in the world when you were 11 that made you think about the Olympics being a cool thing for you to be able to do?
That's an excellent question, Steve.
Yeah.
I think it had a lot to do with what was going on more in my house, in my home world.
Right.
That I wanted to see a different life for myself than I was experiencing at the time at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved running, and I thought that if I could make it to the Olympics, I could really change the path of my life. And so, of course, as an 11-year-old, you just decide that this is what you're going to do, and you have absolutely no idea of, what's involved, what that looks like, how it would take. I just thought, well, I think the 76 Olympics were maybe around then. I was born 64. Yeah, that would be right around when the 76 Olympics were. Aging myself. But I remember watching that and just thinking, if those people doing the things that they love to do are carving out a really good life for themselves, that's what I want. I did not want the life that I had at the time. And that seemed like a good way for me to get out of that life and change my path. So, which we can all do. Every single person watching this is in charge of their own destiny, right? So
we're going to fast forward a little bit to 1992. The Olympics were in Barcelona, Spain. For those of you that need a history lesson on this, in 1992, one of the big ticket items for that Olympics was the Team USA Dream Team, the basketball team with all the pros, including Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, all those big guys and big guns. And Leah got to go to her first Olympic Games that year. That was also the same year that Robin Marr from Nova Scotia originally went as well. She went in the 5,000. And then in 1996, what was going on in Atlanta, that's when Donovan Bailey broke the world record, won the Olympic gold, and his relay team won the gold in Atlanta the following week. Then in 2000, they were in London. 2000, they were not in London. In 2000, they were in Sydney, Australia. And that was the year that Simon Whitfield won gold in the triathlon for Canada. So those were some of the things that were going on in those Olympics. And I will tell you a similar story to what Cindy alluded to in watching Leah's race. Leah, your PB for 1,500 meters is 4:03.
correct.
Was that done in an Olympic final?
Yeah.
Were there any boycotts in the 1996 Olympics?
Nope.
Any injuries for any of the big guns in the 1996 Olympics?
No, not that I know of.
Did all the big guns make it to the final of the 1996 Olympics?
I think so.
You came fourth in the world.
Yeah.
4:03. I don't think there's anybody else on this call that currently can run a 1,500 in 4:03. Currently. And you did it in the Olympic final. That's talk about to peak mentally, physically, and emotionally to get yourself in that one moment in time. One Moment in Time was performed by Whitney Houston at that Olympic Games opener. And I listen to that all the time, and I get chills when I listen to that song. So I am not going to talk very much at all beyond that. I may interject with some questions. If any of you get the chance, get the book, Not About the Medal. If you want to get motivated, read that book. Not only is it an excellent story that will make your heart sing, it's really, really well written. So Leah graciously and arm twistingly offered to do this. I'm going to stop sharing now because that's enough. She graciously offered to do this a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that is really great about Leah's story is that she didn't just do it all on the track. She's been giving back to people like you forever. She became a clinical counselor when she didn't have to be. She was already a teacher. And she just loves to help young people. And that's something that Cindy and I share in common with her. I got a text today from one of my athletes who's graduating med school, and I started coaching him when he was in grade 8. And he sent me a text. The short version goes, I'm so thankful that I was able to be in your life. So that's kind of a big deal, and it's kind of a good thing because we need more doctors. So along the lines that we were talking about, being able to peak on performance, peak on demand in that particular performance. And you said, as an 11-year-old, you said the Olympics, that's my thing. And also given where you were coming from in your home life. When you got to Simon Fraser, you really started to blossom. So when you would have gotten there, the notion of mental performance wasn't really in anything more than its infancy. And it was kind of by hook or by crook. Did you notice a change immediately when you got to that training environment with respect to your physical performance and your mental performance, or did mental start to come later?
You said a lot of very interesting and heady things, Steve, that I'm mulling over. I would say
you should hear my kids when I say those things.
I would say that to get an athlete into a place where they can be strong mentally is to create an environment of happiness, really. So what happened for me up at SFU was I connected with my longtime coach, Mike Lonigan. And as soon as I was with Mike, he was cultivating this environment of happy. So being at practice, we had fun, we were happy. It was never about, there was no negativity. He never beat us down verbally. It was just all like, you're doing this because you love to do it. You run because you love to run. That's why we pursue things in our lives, because they give us pleasure and enjoyment. And I think for me, once I started to really find my happy and I felt good, and I really remembered what it was about running that I love. And it's just the joy of how it feels to run. Once the happy part was being cultivated, the performances, of course, get better, because a relaxed, happy athlete is an athlete that can perform well. Once that started happening, I started to kind of understand what was happening for me, sort of cognitively, which was, I feel good, I feel happy, and I'm doing what I enjoy. That's it. And that's the simplicity of it. And Mike was 100% about that. Mm-hmm. And we just had a ton of fun, and I think anybody here, all of us, can connect to a time in our life when we've been really happy and we feel really good, and anything is possible when you're in that space, right? Nobody likes to do anything when they're unhappy, and nothing is productive when you're unhappy. So cultivating happiness was the start. Once that environment was solid, all the athletes that Mike had did well. Tina Connolly was in that group. Dan Bertoya was in that group. I'm not sure if you trained with us, Cindy, or with Britt and Jerry mainly.
I was at the track at the same time as you guys in your happy group. But no, I didn't get to train with my,
Yeah.
that's fortunate.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I was there at the same time.
We had you. But yeah, so for everybody, we're all here together. I'm talking to all of these beautiful people that I wish I could meet all of you. The most important thing for everybody is just to find that happy. Like literally, once you're happy and once you feel that good vibe inside of you and you know how to create that for yourself, there's absolutely nothing you can't do. You can literally do anything once you feel good. So I think that's, for me, the base of any sort of mental training or anything that I do with young people in my counseling practice. It always starts with, what is it that makes you feel good?
Okay,
Yeah.
so for the toolbox of what it is that makes us feel good, so we're all, we're all snowflakes, we're all different.
Yeah.
What are those markers or signs that are fairly typical of every one of us, that we can do to start to cultivate that happy? Because especially when we look at where we are today, we're all cooped up in our own homes and we're all scared of not being cooped up in our own homes, and there's a whole lot of uncertainty around, and I'm going to guess that your clients are probably concerned about that more now than they would have been a year ago. So are there things that are similar with all these snowflakes to be able to have like a checklist of things? I'm moving away from happy.
Yes, there are. So I think a really good thing to connect with, first of all, is staying in the day, right? When we are present in this day, we can get through, survive, acknowledge, be any way that we want. When we think about yesterday, it's gone. There's nothing we can do about that. We have to accept it and let it go, whatever that looked like, whatever that was for you. And tomorrow doesn't exist. So when you acknowledge that you just have this one day, that's a starting place. And so lots of times when we get anxious, when we worry, it's because we're kind of living in a place where we don't really exist. We're either living in the past, we're living in the future. There's nothing we can do about either of those places. So come back to this day. And once you're in this day, a really good practice is to notice the good. So no matter what's going on, there's always good. Even in this pandemic, you frame your life and your day in any way that you want. And for me, I'm going through my day trying to really notice anything good. Okay, someone smiled at me. Awesome. I had a fantastic cup of coffee. Awesome. I had a great run this morning. Awesome. So there's all these things that are happening that we need to kind of pay attention to. And lots of times, our brain, we have a negativity bias. So the brain naturally hangs on to negative experiences because our caveman brain needed that to keep us alive. Nowadays, we don't necessarily need that negativity bias, but it still exists. So the way to sort of train a happy brain is to notice as many good things as you can and just feel them and stay with it. So when you have a good experience, really take it in. What was that like? Why did it feel so good for you, right? And really be with that. And so in doing that, you create kind of, what I call the happy brain. And when your brain is happy and when you feel good, that's when you're cultivating that environment for success and being productive. Because a happy athlete is a successful athlete. A happy human being is a successful human being. So it's kind of like that day-to-day practice of what's good. What is it that's good today? Sure, you can focus on the negative if you want, but it won't serve you. It won't serve you in any way. Even if you have a workout where you're like, well, that wasn't a really great workout, or I didn't have a great race, That's okay. It's done. What's one thing good you can pull from it? One thing. You hang on to that one good thing and you move forward and you accept that now it's a past experience that you cannot change. Accept it. It's gone. I have this day. So that's kind of leads you right into that whole process versus outcome, which hopefully many of you have thought about that, right? Process is the doing. So what are you doing in the moment? Like when you're training or running or whatever your experience is, that is the part that's important. Thinking about how you're going to finish or what time you're going to get or what place you're going to get is a future experience that you can't control, right? And that's where people kind of be like, whoa, what the heck? But if you are focused on what you're doing in this moment, the outcome will be as you want. So let go of that outcome, the future, and stay with now, because right now is the only thing you have any sort of control over. That's kind of my long.
I challenged a bunch of athletes a number of years ago, and I date myself because I think this particular athlete has just graduated with an engineering degree or is about to. I asked them all to get yellow stickies or different color yellow stickies and write something down every day that went well or was good or made them smile. And where's Marina? Marina was involved in this. I think people did it for a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two. This child, the entire wall of her room full of Bristol board with every day something that was positive. So she had 6 years worth of stuff, 10 years worth of stuff up on her wall. And I do have a picture of it somewhere, but it was quite, it's so powerful. And I see as a coach, I see in me as a recovering from foot surgery a year and a half later, going out for a run and being in the middle of anxiety and stress and all the rest, that negative brain is our default. As soon as we, as soon as we lose some energy, the first part of your brain that gets depleted is that cognitive stuff that leaves you happy. So it's that Neanderthal you were talking about. It's the prevention, the fight or flight. And I don't know about the other clubs, but I know in my club, a lot of these athletes are really hard on themselves. Yeah. And if I challenge them again to, get out all of their yellow sticky notes and write something good that happened and start charting that, they'll have this wall of positivity. I guess that's leading into a kind of a big question in terms of charting your days, charting your moods, charting this. I know Marina loves to make lists. I wonder if Marina has a positivity list that she has every day.
I probably need to work on that one. That one needs the most.
So Leah, what are your thoughts on people having a journal for their thoughts as well as just a journal for what their workout was?
Yeah, well, journaling can be incredibly helpful. It's a great tool for healing if you're a journaler. So some people aren't journalers, and if you're not a journaler, don't journal. If you are a journaler, right? Because it has to suit you, it has to serve your purpose, right? So if you are a journaler, jotting down positive experiences or any kind of thoughts that you're having, it's super helpful. And sorry, my dog's trapped in the kitchen. I gotta let him out. Let me see if you can see him.
Aww.
See Jojo? He wants out, so I'm gonna let him out. But yeah, so the thing about journaling that's helpful, if you like to write, is often when we put words to our thoughts, it helps to organize them, it helps to kind of get them out of us, and it helps us to understand our own self and our own story better. So, because sometimes we're ruminating inside of our head, so in that regard, it is helpful to put stuff down. I'm not as big of a list writer as I used to be, because I find when I write too many lists, it pulls me out of the day and it pulls me out of the moment. And I want to have some freedom in this day with myself. So I don't do as many lists as I used to, although I am still a bit of a list person. But yeah, if you're a journaler, right, it is helpful. It does help to clarify your story. It does help to clarify what you want in your life, kind of putting intention into the world, etc. If you're not a journaler, don't journal though, because I've had athletes or clients who, you know, really don't want to journal and it's not helpful to them. So it's only purposeful if it's something that is bringing something to you.
All right, so I am going to open the floor up to questions. So Zoom has this hand raising phenomenon that you can raise your hand in here. If you haven't been able to figure out the raise your hand part, then if your camera is not turned on and you want to say something, wave frantically. If your camera is not turned on and you have a question, unmute yourself and say, I have a question. If nobody has a question, then I'm just going to keep talking and asking Leah more questions, but that's not cool at all. So I know to pause longer than I ordinarily would if I was just talking with you. So I'm going to pause now and watch.
Okay. We've got a lot of quiet people. You guys can ask me literally anything. I've got nothing to hide. And the other thing is if you feel uncomfortable asking a question in front of everybody, you will have my email address and you can email me anytime you want. So.
All right. Well, while they're warming up for questions, oh, wait, we got Kate Roper. Kate Roper wants to ask a question. She's also from BC.
I was wondering, if you don't want to go for a run, how do you get out of bed in the morning and still go on a run?
So I guess my bigger question would be, what's leading you to a place where you don't want to go for a run? So I would think about what is happening. Are you not running? Is the morning not for you? Are you not doing runs that you enjoy? Are you not taking enough rest days? When you don't want to go for a run and you feel like you don't want to go for a run, there's usually something driving that, right? So sometimes we just need to take a day off, to get fresh. Sometimes we need to run without our watch so that there's no pressure of time. Sometimes we need to run in a different place that's really enjoyable, really pretty. Sometimes we need to run with people if we feel stale. So I think, Kate, the bigger question would be, what's happening that you don't want to go for a run? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it like a morning thing? Are you really tired? Are you bored?
I think for me, I only run with my school, so it's a season run. And then so for the rest of the year, I'm on my own. And so I think it's kind of harder for me to to either have to run with my parents or have to run on my own. I run better with my group, but yeah.
So
Kate,
some of the
how old
things
are you now?
How old am I?
Yeah.
15.
15. Yeah, that's still young enough not to have to be running 12 months of the year. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ask yourself, Kate, what would make the run fun for you? What is it about? Would it be more enjoyable if you ran at a different time of day? Would it be more enjoyable to run with a friend? Would it be more enjoyable to run at a certain place? Think about what it is that would make it fun for you. Because if you get up every day and you really don't want to go and you make yourself go, eventually it's going to become a real drag and you're probably just not going to do it. So kind of try to figure out what would make it enjoyable for you. And if it's not enjoyable running every day, then don't run every day, run every other day, right? Or take a couple days off and do some cross training, but figure out what would make it fun for you. So for me, I only run in places that I find pretty, right? I don't run, I'll drive, I know you're 15, so you can't get in the car and drive somewhere, but I'll drive 10 or 15 minutes away to be in a park, right? And I think there's a lot of value in leaving your running watch at home on a lot of runs and just running as you feel and not timing it, not worrying about that kind of stuff. You know, so sometimes just take the pressure off, you know, and some days if you really don't want to run, don't run. That's okay.
And
Thank you.
this is gonna be a
You're
tough sell for this crowd to not take their watches with them when they run.
Oh man, one of the best things I ever did was get rid of my running watch. You don't need to time every run.
I stopped logging everything. I got rid of my training log when I hit that age, whenever that age was. So I'm thinking about all the people that rolled their eyes when you said journaling was a good idea, but just for journalers.
Yeah.
So the strategies in terms of staying in the moment and practicing staying in the moment, or at least staying in the day. What are your experiences with successfully doing that?
So the thing with learning how to stay in the day is our brains are neuroplastic. So we can change our brains throughout our entire life, but it takes repetitive practice. Just like running takes repetitive practice to get good. So if you say to yourself, I want to start practicing staying in the day, you may have a script like, say you start worrying about something that's in a week, or you're worrying about a past event, right? And you want to be in the day. So what my practice is today is Thursday. I can only do Thursday. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow doesn't exist. I'm going to be in this day. Now you'll have to say that to yourself probably 1,000 times before it actually starts working, because you have to retrain your brain. Our brains are not necessarily meant to be completely present. We're always thinking about all these different things. So for me, it's been a couple of years now where I've been saying to myself, today's Thursday, I can do Thursday. I'm not going to worry about next week. I'm not going to lose sleep over what happened yesterday. And now it works for me. So I can pull myself back and I can be in the day, but it's been a repetitive practice. So just keep doing it. Just keep saying it to yourself. Even if you say to yourself, today's Thursday, I can do Thursday. I'm going to be in the day today. I'm going to enjoy this day. And right away you start worrying about next week. That's okay. Just come on back and go, hey, it's Thursday. I'm going to be in Thursday today. Right. And a really important part of that is to not get frustrated with yourself and not be angry with yourself when it doesn't work right away. Because anytime we're trying to change a habit or a practice, it takes consistency, right? Just like training does. So you just keep on doing it. You guys are all super young, except like me and Steve. And yeah. Cindy's young too.
She's so young.
She is a baby still. But if you just keep doing that, you will be able to train yourself to stay in the day, and it gets way easier as you go. So I'd say give yourself like a solid month where you'll just fail every day. And after that, you'll start to notice that you'll be able to come back and you'll feel your whole body calm, those anxious feelings, as soon as we're in the day. Because when we are in this one day, there's no place for anxiety. Anxiety does not live in the present moment. It only lives in the past, and it only lives in the future, if that makes sense. When you're present, there's no anxiety, right? Anxiety is a future worrier's thing or a past worrier's thing. Present, being mindful in the moment, there's no anxiety. So it's a really worthwhile practice, not only for running, but just for life. It's super helpful.
Okay, I'm still not seeing questions, and I do have some. Oh, I got a Marina. Oh, I got a Marina question. Okay, Marina, go.
Okay. So I don't run really competitively anymore or anything, but when I was with Steve, I was doing pretty well at the beginning, and then I had one bad race that I remember in my head. And it wasn't that bad of a race when I look back now, but for me at the time, it was the worst race. I'm pretty sure I almost tripped over every steeple barrier there was in the race.
Oh, that race.
Canadian Game Trials. That was not fun. Anyway, it took me like 2 years. I couldn't get over it. And there was so many bad races after that. And eventually, I kind of got through it. I learned that, running it's more than just doing well, and I actually like it. But I guess my question was what would be your tips to kind of get past that sooner? Because that first bad race, I had no idea how to deal with it because I just never had to before.
Yeah. So that's a super good question, Marina, and I really appreciate you being brave enough to ask that and share that with everybody. So thank you for that. When we have a negative experience like that and we continually revisit it, what we're doing is we're manifesting that negative brain, right? So we have that negativity bias. So you have a really bad experience. The next day you get up and you're going to grieve it. It's like grieving any loss, right? Having a bad race, you have to go through that experience of this didn't feel good. But at a certain point, as an athlete or as a human being in anything where you fail, you have to say to yourself, it's done. That happened yesterday. There's nothing I can do. There's a term for it in counseling just called radical acceptance. It's like, that's done. I have to let it go. And what I would say to you now, if we were living that experience, would be, what's one thing from that bad experience that you could pull out of it? Did you finish the race? Right? Okay. So, I would say, what's one good thing that you could pull out of a really bad experience? Right?
Okay.
So you
focus on that.
Right? So you pull out one good thing, you finish the race, or whatever it is that you could pull one good thing out of that, and that is the gem that you build on, right? So when we have a negative experience, my rule for myself now, and actually back when I was training, was I allowed myself to grieve a full 24-hour cycle, and that was it. And again, because there's nothing we can do about going back there. And every time you think of that negative experience and you put energy into it, you're essentially training your brain to hang on to that negativity, right? Which isn't helpful for us as human beings. So every time that race would come up, if say that's my experience, I would be like, yeah, that race sucked. I had a bad day. One bad day. It's done. I'm putting it away. Today's fresh. I have a new day. All I have is this day, right? So it sounds to me like what happened was, you had a really negative experience and you put a lot of energy into the negative experience, and it sort of stayed with you and carried forward with you, which can happen, right? I mean, I'm not perfect as an athlete. I experienced similar things like that. But I learned in having, in doing something for a long time or really loving to be a certain way, we are going to have negative experiences, and that's okay, right? So moving forward, you have a negative experience, grieve for 24 hours, find one little gem that you can pull from that bad experience, and you get up the next day and you say, hey, today's Thursday. All I have is Thursday. What's going to be good about this day? And you move forward. And every time you go back to that bad race, you say to yourself, it's done. There's nothing I can do about it. I have to accept it and move ahead. I know there's no real easy answer for that. It's really about training the brain. Like, it really is. Your brain will do whatever it is that you train it to do. If you train it to be negative, it will be negative. You train it to be positive, it will be positive. It is what you create, if that makes sense,
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. That's right.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, Liam Saunders, one of my sprinters. He has a question. Go for it, Liam.
What's the best mental exercise that you can do?
The best mental exercise that you can do, Liam, is to be happy. Right?
Yeah.
So every time you go to the track to run, think about what you like about it. Every time you leave the track, think about what was good about that workout, even if it was hard and you didn't feel good and it rained or snowed or whatever. What was one good thing? And you hang on to that one little gem, like I was saying to Marina, and you really put your energy into the one good aspect of it. Because again, I'm always going to go back to this happy brain concept. If you're happy, you will be successful. When we're happy, we always do good. We always do good things when we're happy because we want to do them and we feel good. So remember, all of us, all of you guys, you ultimately do track and field because you started to do it because you liked it, right? There's no other reason for doing anything except that it makes you happy and you like it. I even believe that in regards to jobs and careers, right? Life is what you make it. So Liam, when you go to the track, think of all the good, think of the happy, be with your friends, think of why you chose track. When you leave the track, think about what was good about that workout that I really enjoyed. And that's what you stay with. And that's what's going to perpetuate that happy brain. That's going to help you really love your sport.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You know, Liam, you're probably the happiest person that we have in our team. So I think you're doing a great job. All right, I want to pick on Comet for a minute.
Comet.
That's Haley. Hi, Haley. A couple of weeks ago when we did the Bring Your Medal to Practice, you were talking about the long jump competition in Moncton and how you had to refocus from one round to the next. Can you describe that to Leah a little bit?
Yeah, so I was having a really bad competition. And I'm a jumper, so it was just like in between my jumps. So in between, I like sat down and I thought of all the reasons I was having a bad competition and what I was focusing on that wasn't helping me and what I should be focusing on that would help me, and like focusing on everything that I had to do other than just I have to jump this or I have to do this. And then when I started focusing on everything that I had to do that would help me, it ended up being one of my like best competitions.
Haley, you're a smart athlete, right? So what you essentially did was you found all the good and brought the good to the front of your thoughts and put that into your competition. And you can see the power in finding the good and thinking about the things that you can do versus focusing on the things that you can't do. So you are cultivating a happy brain, Haley. And in doing that, you're going to be, you're doing everything right. So if you do exactly what you did in that competition, anytime you want something, you want to be a good jumper, you want to do well, you want to do good in school, whatever it is, you will always be successful because happy always equals success. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You too. All right, more calls for questions before I just keep going. Anybody?
Looks like Sophie has one. Sophie. I don't know.
Okay, what's Sophie? Oh, okay. Sophie, there are no stupid questions.
I was just going to say that, Sophie, there's no stupid questions, but I may give you a stupid answer. Who knows?
The only stupid question is one you don't ask.
That's right.
Okay, so how do you set your mind to work hard? And because I'm really afraid of working hard, and I'm really afraid I don't do my best.
So how do you set your mind to work hard? Is that what you're curious about?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So how about we set your intention, instead of how do I work hard, let's set the intention of how do I enjoy myself more? Can we start with that? Can you think about that for a second? How can I enjoy myself more when I'm at the track? Are you a
Okay.
runner, or are you a runner or a jumper? What do you do?
I'm a sprinter.
She's a really
Sprinter.
good sprinter, and she always works hard at every single practice.
Okay, Sophie. So from now on, instead of saying to yourself, I want to work harder, I want you to hold the thought, I want to enjoy myself more. I want more happy at practice. So I want you to let go of working hard. I want you to let go of worrying about doing your best and all that stuff, and just 100% focus on whenever I go to practice, I want to really be happy and I want to really enjoy it. I'm going to really notice my friends. I'm going to really notice what it feels like to train, and I'm going to enjoy it. So if you can do that for like a month as an experiment, I guarantee when you come out of that month, you're going to notice that your work effort and your work ethic has increased. Because when we focus on how hard can I work, that's kind of a hard one to wrap around, because what actually makes a person work hard? Again, feeling good, being happy, doing what you love. So let's just really let go of that work ethic piece, and let's just focus on you increasing your happiness at practice. Would that be a fair thing to try?
Yes, it would be. Thank you.
Okay, so you've got my email address. So after you do that for a month or so, I'd be curious to see what you feel like at practice. But every time you say to yourself, I got to work harder, I want you to take away that and go, I need to enjoy myself more. Because in putting that on you, I got to work harder, you're actually bringing negativity to you, because that's a pressure thing, right? So let's just let that go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And that was an excellent question. That's not anywhere near a stupid question. Like, there aren't any, but that was a very good question.
All right, we have Noor with a question. This is going to be a really good one. Noor is one of our outstanding distance runners. She is also outstanding in being incredibly hard on herself.
Okay, Noor, lay it on me.
So we've been talking about like how being happy makes you run better, but it's just that a fear I've always had was like going like too easy on myself to the point where I just don't make progress. Cause like I've always felt like there's a need to have like this one side that's like just kind of mean, and that would help me like keep going. Cause if I like go too easy, there's not gonna be any incentive to make me even work hard. Like, why work hard?
Okay, so I guess, Noor, I'll ask you this. Being mean to yourself, does that make you feel good when you're mean to yourself like that? How does that make you feel?
Well, like, it feels better once I'm done a workout, because it's like I put all of the stress like before and during, and then after, like, I feel good that it's over. But I guess that doesn't last for very long, because then I have to worry about the next workout.
Yeah. So here's a thought. I'm going to kind of connect what I'm saying to you with what I just said to Sophie. How about, instead of being mean to yourself, why don't you be kinder to yourself and say, you know, I'm doing my best. I'm working my best. I love my sport. Like, again, generate more good. What is it that you like about going to practice? What is it that makes you feel good at the end of a practice? And let yourself enjoy the process of being in the practice and training. And try to kind of like, let's check the mean voice to the side for a while, and let's bring in the kind voice. You're doing your best, right? Some days you're not going to be able to, like, not every day can we generate, you know, a superstar on the track. Some days we just have a average workout, and that's fine. On those days, the consistency of training is still a benefit. So you don't have to crank out a super good workout every time you go to the track, but you do have to generate a good feeling every time you go to the track. That's very important, because if you don't feel good at the track, eventually you're not going to want to go. Does that make sense? So I'm going to ask you again, just like Sophie, you can email me in a month or so, but I'd like you to try to check the mean voice and bring in a loving voice that is supportive to you and says kind things, even when you don't have a good workout. Okay? And let's generate that and let's see what that's like. Because if you're counting on your mean voice to get you through a workout, after a while, that voice is just going to have to get meaner and meaner and meaner. And that's really not going to feel good for your whole being. Does that make sense? Bring the love, Noor. Bring the love.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, I am going to ask another question that I think a lot of these folks can relate to or maybe take away from with some newfound knowledge. We have a lot of athletes that would prefer to work out by themselves when they're at practice with a bunch of people. And when they're having to train with the people that they might be racing against, that turns into pressure. And that turns into them comparing themselves to the person that they're doing this workout with.
Yeah.
Do we have some proven strategies for the coaches that can help that particular issue?
Well, one of the things for everybody to think about and bring into your practice is that there will always be someone better and there will always be someone less. You know what I'm saying? So comparing yourself to others is quite a futile practice. And in the end, it doesn't really matter where you are in regard to someone else because we're all striving for our own best. So the way I would look at it would be, if you were in a race and you finished dead last, but you had a massive PB, that would be pretty awesome. If you were in a race and you won, but you ran a slow time, right? So always bring it back to you and your own practice. And honestly, if you get to train with a competitor, that's a gift. That's an opportunity to use, to support each other to be better. Take turns leading reps, pace each other, work together. Like when we work together, that is how we're going to generate good performances. So it's a gift to get to train with competitors, and you have to look at that as they're in it with you. And when you're in a race, if you guys both have a good performance in PB, who cares who's in front and who's in back? It's kind of irrelevant, right? Because we're all in this to try to do our best for our own self. And when you do that, then the goals that you set for yourself tend to happen. So remember, there's always going to be someone better or faster, and there's always going to be someone slower. So who cares? Second of all, if you get to train with a competitor, use each other, help each other, right? When we used to train together, like Tina and I, for example, she'd take a rep, I'd take a rep. She'd take a rep, I'd take a rep, that kind of thing. We'd help each other. It's just like I was talking to, and here's where I'll go a little bit onto like a small little tangent for the females in the group. For females to excel and get better, we have to help each other and be like a collaborative, as opposed to working against each other and putting each other down. That's how it works in sport. You have to help each other so everybody gets better, as opposed to, being petty and not wanting someone to get ahead of you on the track in a practice. There's no purpose for that. And it's not in any way helpful. So I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but.
Oh, that's a lovely answer. Yeah, that is Jim Dandy fantastic. That is wonderful.
Okay.
All right, so I'm still looking for questions while I'm looking for I got David. Oh, we have David with a question. David is our 11-year-old in our club, and he is a long jumper who runs 2000s. Let's go with your question, David.
All right, David.
Where are you? Can't see you yet.
Oh, I turned the camera off, Steve.
Well, turn it back on. Come on, let's go, Rowboat.
So I think the first part, I was giving thumbs up because, Leah, the advice that you gave the female athletes is 100% true. I'm a master's athlete, and I work in an office with loads of people, and that advice is resonating consistently time and time again. So thank you for bringing that up. I think that's really useful tidbit of information. So I guess I'll ask a question on behalf of David because he seems shy tonight.
Okay.
Wow.
Hey, David.
Hi.
Do you want to ask a question?
Remember, there are no stupid questions.
I might have a question later.
Later?
Okay.
So I will ask one question. This is something that came up probably about a year ago, and I remembered it. Steve brought up something to the team, and it had to do with the fact that the heats are assigned to individuals the day before the race. Everyone's checking it out online. They're getting very anxious surrounding about which heat they're going to be in, who they're running against, and they almost start pre-qualifying themselves because the seed times are there, and it throws I've seen it. It throws the athletes off before their competition, and almost to the point where they disbelieve that they have a chance of doing better than what they believe. Would you have any advice for people to kind of clear their heads? I don't know, maybe the 2 hours before the race, just so they can kind of get more focused on, what's important to them. So I guess that'll be my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So a really good question to ask yourself is, what can I control? Right? So you can look at the heat sheets and look at everybody's time. What part of that can you control? None. Doesn't matter who's in your heat, can't control that. Doesn't matter how fast they ran earlier in the year, can't control that. What I can control is myself, my preparation, and the way that I think about performing. And, going into the race knowing, doesn't matter, there's all these people in this race with me. I can control my own performance if I stay in the moment, right? And focus on my process. I will have a good performance. It's irrelevant how everybody else performs, whether they're ahead of me or behind me, if I'm taking care of my performance and I have a good performance. So first of all, looking at heat sheets, there's all different thoughts around it. Yes, it's good. No, it's bad. It gets you stressed out, whatever. I think it's helpful to take a look to see who's in, because you might have an idea of how the race is going to go. But in that, again, you can only control you. So it's a really good question when we get anxious, not only for competition, but in life. What can I control? Just this. I can't control anything outside of that. So when I tell myself that, I actually feel kind of relieved and calm, because it's a lot less to worry about. If I only got to worry about this, I don't got to worry about everybody else. That's relatively easy for me, right? So I would say Mike, or was it David? David is the dad, right?
Yes, sometimes.
David, the athlete?
David's the athlete, yeah.
David's the athlete. I got it wrong. So David, you can only control you. All you have to think about is yourself. 2 hours before the race, what do you need to do to warm up? How do you get your body ready? Where are the bathrooms? All that stuff. You only control you. So if you take care of you, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing or what it says on the heat sheets, etc. Okay? So ask yourself, it's a good question. What can I control?
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna leave it there. We're gonna get Leah to sum up, but I want to ask her this question. It's 3 weeks out before the 1996 Olympic 1500 final. What was that final 1500 meter workout that you did when you knew that you were going to be ready?
Oh, I totally remember that. I can't think of the exact intervals, but it was like we were in Atlanta, and it was maybe a week before. It was my last hard workout. It was maybe a week or 10 days before the final. And it was like something like 1,000 meters, an 800 meter, a 600 meter, a 400 meter, something like that. But it was full out. Every rep was like full out. I had a couple guys rabbit me, and it was a really good workout. And when I got off the track, then I phoned Mike. He's like, okay, it's done. The horse is in the barn. Now we just wait. And so I think that was helpful, having that workout. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like that. 1,000-meter reps are never enjoyable. So.
So what I've been hearing for the past hour is about the same thing we hear about in physical preparation. It's practice, practice, practice. And
Yep.
I want to thank you from everybody, and they're going to unmute their mics in a sec. You've given them a lot of tools for their tool belt. And I think as we have further practices in the next weeks and months online and eventually live, we're going to take some of these things and we're going to work on just those. And I hope that they do take advantage of your generosity by getting in touch with you in a month's time and saying, yes, this is what I've been doing. It's made a huge difference. A shout out to Jess O'Connell, who has been lurking all evening, who's gotten just as much out of this as the kids have. So thank you, Jess, for coming back and sticking around. Everybody unmute and unhide yourself and say thanks to Leah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Beautiful people.
Jess, you're
Okay,
here.
so everybody, you all have my email. Email me anytime you have any questions or thoughts or concerns or worries. Just shoot me an email and I'll get right back to you. You know, I would love that. You know, like there's no dumb questions. Ask away, but if you pull one thing from today, train your brain to be happy. Focus on the good every single day. Always look for that good little gem anywhere. And if you can continue to pull in the good like that, life's going to feel pretty awesome for you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much, Leah. What a treat that was. I always love hearing from you. So great.
Love to see you, Cindy. I'm always happy to see your beautiful smiling face. You too, Steve.
All right. Well, until I get to the West Coast, this is the best we can do, Leah.
I know, and you always have a place to stay out here.
All right. Good night, everybody. See you all on Saturday at 4 or 3 or 2 or whatever time zone you're in. Bye.
Saturday.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you, Leah.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
You rock,
There
girl.
goes everyone. That was great, Steve.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. Thank you. And if you ever want me to come back, I'm always available.
Be careful what you offer.
Anytime. No, you let me know. It's very easy to do this.
That's true.
So I'm always happy to talk to young athletes. Absolutely.
That's great.
Right? Yeah,
Well,
anytime.
we will definitely take you up on that.
Yeah, you bet. It was great to see you.
Go enjoy the rest of your night and have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.
All
See you
right,
guys.
bye.